Okay.
All right. Good morning from Unity Village, everybody. It is so wonderful to be here. And can you see I'm jumping up and down inside because I have never done this before. As I was beginning my trek home and I was thinking to myself, I'm just going to pop over to Unity Village. It's on my way home and just pay my last respect, maybe walk the labyrinth one last time before I head home. And as I pulled in and I saw the hotel, this little voice said, wouldn't it be cool if you did Sunday's lesson from a hotel room at Unity Village? And I walked up, they said, do you have a reservation? I said, no, because your app isn't working. I can't get into it. And they did something on their computer. They said, oh, well, we'll give you the website. Great. And 2 nights, perfect. Here's your key. So here I am. So it's wonderful to see all you peeps. As of the time of recording, the 2nd of July, I have been at the World Convention across the state line, actually in Kansas. And so I'm back with you. So this might be not like my usual talk because it kind of got put together on the fly as I had time between workshops and walking labyrinths and meeting up with my peeps. And it's so wonderful to see all of my Unity Halton Peel peeps too. So welcome everyone. Oh, okay, so I need to recenter myself here. Oh, we just take a moment, knowing that the past is in the past, the present is in the present, and the future is yet to come. And it is, at least in the English language, in the presence where we find the name I am. Actually, in French as well, je suis. I am at the core of my being an expression of God, an expression of spirit, an expression of universal mind. And we come together today. And it may not feel like we're together because we're looking at each other in boxes. We're not holding hands. We're not able to reach out to each other. And quantum physics tells us that this is as real as an experience as if we were in the room next to each other. That is one of the things I have learned this week, is how the science is beginning to prove what we have been saying spiritually for decades, millennia, for all time perhaps. And let us just breathe into this moment, into this beingness, and remind ourselves of our mission to lovingly inspire transformation and be of service to the world. And so it is, and we are so grateful for the technology that allows us to come together in this way. And before I call on Margaret to read our daily word, I am so excited. Okay, so one of the things when you stay at Unity World headquarters in the hotel is you get a daily word on your pillow. I mean, what other hotel does that? I can't think of any. And the article for August is from our dear friend and former minister, Mary Wood. And so I invite you to go online and check it out. It's if you don't get a paper copy of Daily Word, it's very exciting that she's been published there. So, Margaret, you're up to.
I know. July the 2nd. Here we are. The topic is guidance. I seek trust and follow my guidance. Seeking divine guidance means tuning out information and opinions and turning inward. Then, with an open heart and quiet mind, I can better feel the nudge of my intuition, my inner voice. I receive divine guidance much in the way flowers in a field soak up sunshine. Just as following the sun is an innate for them, I have instinct to trust my inner knowing. Even if my guidance surprises me, I trust it to lead me on the path to my highest good. I follow where I feel I'm called to go. I heed the still small voice within, and pay particular attention to the serendipitous circumstances I feel along the way. I seek trust and follow my guidance. As I do, I deepen my relationship with God, knowing wherever I go, I do not travel alone. The Lord will guide you continually. Isaiah verse 58, verse 11, chapter 58. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you.
So for those of you who haven't been to Unity Village, here is the great courtyard. I hope that you have an opportunity. Unity Village is to Unity folk what Mecca is to Muslims. It's one of those places you hope you get to go sometime. Lots of changes have happened since I was last here, and I'll be talking more about them next week because it really fits in nicely, but I would be remiss not to share a picture with you. So one of the things that your board asked me to do while I was at convention was get some more music. So I did. Now, most of it's on CD, and I didn't bring my external drive with me. So it'll be a couple weeks before we start getting more of this music in. But it's all Pawsey music from the Empower website. And I'm excited because I actually was able to secure music from last year's winner of the Empower Music Award. And she is just an outstanding musician, and just love her to pieces, love what she has to say. For our music today, I chose my favorite. Two pieces that I use when I'm preparing my lessons, two pieces I use for my own personal time. And being aware of languaging, I recognize that Eddie Watkins Jr. can be a little bit more gospel-y to some folks. If you don't like the word God, this is your trigger alert. Just replace it with spirit or being or whatever it is, because it's going to take a lot for me not to jump up and start dancing. I actually played all this music before so I could get my dancing out of me. So with no further ado, I present to you Eddie Watkins Jr.
No matter where you come from, no matter where you're going, here's a place where you can take comfort in the knowing that whether if you come to stay a while or just passing through, this door is open to you. Come and let's be silent. Come and share a hug. Come, let's pray together. Come, love and be loved. From the blissed out to the turned out, from the pampered to the abused, this door is open to you. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. The God in us recognizes the God in you. The God in you. Whether you're black or white, gay or straight, Christian, Buddhist or Jew, this door is open to you. If there's some kind of trouble or pain you're going through, know that you are not alone and someone cares for you. As an individualization of divine point of view, this door is open to you. This door is open. This door right here, this door is open to you. Is open for you. This door is open to you. This door is open. I'm talking about this door. This door is open. I said this door is open to you. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. The God in us recognizes the God in you. The God in you. Whether you're black or white or gay or straight, Christian, Buddhist or Jew, this door is open to you.
All right. Well, here's another view of headquarters. And I put this in to remind myself to wish all the July birthdays a very blessed and happy birthday. This is, it's the 2nd already of July. Who knew? It's, there we are. So birthday blessings. We love you. We bless you. We appreciate you. And we recognize that you truly are a divine being in expression. All right, you ready for some more Eddie? Hope so.
strong enough to bear the burdens that sometimes come living this thing called life? Am I wise enough to make the right decisions when I'm standing at the fork in the road? Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize I'm not alone, and there's nothing I have to do on my own, because I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Will I have enough to do the things I need to do to take care of myself? Will I have the health of mind and body to live a life of grace and wholeness? Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize I'm not alone, and there's nothing I have to do on my own, because I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place. I am the place where God. You are the place. Moves and breathes and has we are the place, where God shows up. I am the place. I am the place where God. You are the place.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that. More of him to come. So it being the day after Canada Day and prosperity moment for you. So I'm in my room because it's very humid outside and it's Canada Day. I'm dressed in red and white. I got my Blue Jays shirt on and I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to go out just now. It's a little too warm. So I turn on the TV to see if maybe, just maybe, I can find a Blue Jays game. Not only did I find it, but I found it being broadcast through the Canadian channel. So I got to see all of that beautiful opening ceremony yesterday. And there's something for me that it's not Canada Day until I have seen that ginormous flag unfurled out in the outfield. So it was so wonderful just to be able to enjoy something that I would have done anyway. I would have been plunked in front of my TV with my popcorn and my treats watching the game. So that was my blessing yesterday. I was sort of like, oh, I'll probably be able to find it with the Boston broadcasters, but I got the home version. So back almost a month ago when I had to think of a title, my reflections on the unity movement in Canada, I was going to go in a slightly different direction than I actually am. So warning, I'm going to be in my teacher mode a bit today. Next week, we'll do a little bit more spiritual because I realized as I was talking with people at convention, there are folks who really don't know much about Canada. And I don't mean that to blame, shame, or guilt, but just to say there really wasn't an understanding of our country in many ways. There really wasn't an understanding that there are some things that other unity churches do elsewhere in the world that for some reason or other Canada doesn't. And there are some things that Canada does really well. So I want you all to put your arm on the back and give Canada a pat on the back for all of the amazing things that we have done. We have been leaders in the education department of the unity movement. We have done some things, especially around how we connect with each other across the kilometers, across the time zones, that other ministries are picking up on and saying, hey, how do you do that? How do you make that work? But I also wanted to honor some history, because most folks know of Unity as being a uniquely American organization. And in fact, if you look at the history, you will see that Unity starts to go into a steep decline in Canada at the same time that the United Church of Canada is formed. And part of that reasoning, again, no shame, blame, or guilt, was if you had a choice between something Canadian and something American, and coming out of a state that was admitted to the Union as a slave state, so engaged in segregation and a lot of things that we're not really keen on, you can understand why people would leave the one and join the other. So let me, though, give some context here. Let me give you my top three. I'm limiting it to three. I could probably expand it, but I'm going to limit it to three. So let's start by just acknowledging who we are. We are a vast nation. Last I checked, we had 17 registered ministries or spiritual centers across the country. Right now, we have provinces, especially in the Maritimes, where we have people who follow the Unity movement, who follow the Unity message, who aren't able to have a community the way we have had in the past, the way we continue to, but in a different way. And that seems to be the same throughout the history. One of these years, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to book time with the archives, and I'm going to go, I know exactly which file to look up. I know exactly where the material is located to find out how many study groups Canada had at its height. But that's for another day. If you haven't guessed already, this is the intersection of Portage and Maine, the traditional middle of Canada in Winnipeg. So in our history, one of the images that Charles Fillmore, our co-founder, used was the winged globe. And he wanted that because he wanted the idea of not only the idea of the spirit and the soul, but the idea that it would be a worldwide movement, that it would not be limited to Kansas City, Missouri, but that it would expand and grow. And indeed it has. We're on pretty much every continent except Antarctica to some greater or lesser degree. Daily Word is read by more people who are not in the Unity movement than are in the Unity movement. And I'm personally aware of people outside of our movement who have said, oh, I read that magazine. I didn't know that your church was part of it. So it's something that's very large and expansive in idea. So Canadian connection number one, we got to go out to Nova Scotia. The lady pictured is Mary Stone Fillmore, who was born in Nova Scotia. Eventually she moved with her family to Minnesota, where she met her husband, Henry, and they had two children, a son, Charles, and a son, Norton. Charles, of course, being our co-founder. So if you ever hear someone or a book referring to Grandma Fillmore, this is Grandma. And this is Charles, one of my favorite pictures of him. I don't know how they got that picture of him, because I'm thinking there must have been some cost involved, and they were not independently wealthy in the way that one might expect. This is this is the earliest picture I have been able to find of Charles and Myrtle, our co-founders, out in the West. As Charles and Myrtle founded the Unity movement, as it grew beyond prayer circles in their home with a few close friends, Grandma Fillmore was the person who did the administrative work. I remember when I went through school in the late 90s, early aughts, I would hear ministerial candidates saying, I need a Grandma Fillmore. And by that, we mean we needed someone to do the cleaning. We needed someone to look after the kids. We needed someone to do the cooking. Grandma was known as someone who could take a handful of beans and some vegetables out from her garden and feed a whole army. And her son, Charles, was notorious for, after the end of service, saying, okay, everyone back to mom's for dinner. So she was very much the worldly part of the ministry. Without her, Charles and Myrtle would not have been able to spend as much time in prayer and meditation as they did to find the spiritual principles and prove the spiritual principles that we now use. And so I always bless her. Now, Grandma Fillmore didn't have much use for all this religious, spiritual, mumbo jumbo, whatever it was. And that was okay. And that is how unity is even today. To the best of our ability, those of us who are credentialed leaders, we meet you where you are. We invite you to come to where we are, but if it's too big a bridge to cross, we'll meet you halfway. We'll meet you more than halfway. We'll come and sit with you a while and figure out where you are and how we can support you. And sometimes it isn't a good fit, like it wasn't for Grandma Fillmore, and that's okay. She did her work in a way that no one else could. And for her, that I bless her forever. Charles and Myrtle, not too long before Myrtle's passing. What's interesting is Grandma passes in the spring of 31 and Myrtle passed in the fall of 31. So you can imagine that would have been a challenging year for Charles. And anytime someone says, oh, well, he was this great mystic. Yes, and he was a human experiencing loss and grief and all the things that we also experience. Canadian connection number 2, we've got to go to Manitoba. So we're halfway across the country. Eric Butterworth. For those of you who have been in the Unity movement for a while, you may recognize this name. You may have even read some of his books. He was born in Winnipeg, eventually moved to California, and we still claim him as ours. Winnipeg is one of the oldest continuous ministries in Canada. There are quite a few that started and then had a pause and then started up again, Windsor being one of them. They had about a 30-year gap between the two ministries. So if you're saying, I think I know that name, where is he? I picked top 8 books: Celebrate Yourself, Unity, A Quest for Truth, Power Within You, Discover the Power Within You, The Universe is Calling, Practical Metaphysics, Spiritual Economics, In the Flow of Life, and Breaking the 10 Commandments. Many of these will probably end up being in the spirit groups because they are such rich books for people to learn from. Now, some of Eric's works I find a little difficult because he was writing primarily 50s, 60s, 70s. He was ordained in 1948. And so there is some of that languaging around using the word men to be everybody, things like that. But overall, if you can get past that, and just say, okay, at this point in time, this is how it was languaged. The underlying principles are so rich and so important to not only me, but many of us, not just in the spiritual community of Unity, but beyond. He's an author that Maya Angelou mentioned, that Oprah Winfrey mentioned, that has inspired people outside of the Unity community. And indeed, many of his books were published outside of the Unity community because they have such a great appeal. In his heyday, he had the largest congregation in Detroit. It was estimated he would draw over 1,000 people of a Sunday. Then he moved to New York, and he was using the Avery Fisher Hall at Lincoln Center for Sunday services, which is an extensive concert hall. And again, he was drawing thousands of people. So, when people say, oh, Canadians are shy and quiet, it's like, no, Eric Butterworth was not. And his formative years were here. So that's your last use of that excuse. And I'm saying that for myself as well. Canadian connection. Oh, I didn't change that. This should be number 3. BC. So we're coast to coast here. And some of you might be looking at this picture and saying, that doesn't look like Myrtle. That looks like Charles, but that does not look like Myrtle. And you would be correct. This is Charles's number 2 wife, Cora. Cora was Charles and Myrtle's personal secretary. He married her 2 years after Myrtle passed, much to the chagrin of his number 2 son, Rickard, who believed that marriage was forever, all eternity. To which I say, picture, if you will, 1933. You are going to travel as a leader of, as the paper said at the time when they announced the wedding, as a religious leader, you're going to travel by train, by car from Kansas City, Missouri out to California. Which is more appropriate, to travel with your new wife, who is also single at the time, or to travel with your personal secretary? I think you would agree that the former is the better. And I maintain that Cora kept Charles alive a bit longer. She made sure he had organic fruits and vegetables. She made sure that they had goat's milk. She had goats on their property just for that purpose, to ensure that what he was ingesting was healthy. She was the one who kept him out of mischief on the road. When they would arrive at the city where he was to give a lecture, they would hire a car, and she would lean over into the driver's ear and say, "You must take us to this place without going by any movie theaters, because if there's a Western on, Mr. Fillmore will ask you to stop, and we do not have time." So she was very much a caregiver for him. Some ways, not unlike his mom, not in a weird sense, but just in, she took care of the worldly things so he could focus on the spiritual. Now, she was a minister by her own right, and she wrote a companion book to his book on the 12 powers called Christ Enthroned in Man, which, if you've been following my 12 powers series, you may know that Cora's version is a heck of a lot easier to read than Charles's. And that's one of her gifts. Her other gift is that she made sure that his papers were preserved, that his notes were preserved, and she helped archivists translate his handwriting, which I can tell you from personal experience would not get an A+ in any elementary school in Ontario. So that is our third Canadian connection. Surprise, surprise, many of our sister ministries in BC date back to this period when the Fillmores would be in California for the winter, and folks would go south from BC and sit literally at the feet of the master and get their training. So that is another aspect of the geography of our country that is, for many of us, it's hard to get to Kansas City. But for our BC brothers and sisters back in the day, it was very easy to just go south the way we would go to Florida. So those are your connections. I now want to turn a little bit more academic, intellectual, and just for those of you who are wondering, what is Unity Canada? I've never heard of that. You keep yammering about it. What is this all about? Unity Canada is twofold. We are considered a national region within the Unity Worldwide Movement, in the same way that the UK is, in the same way that Australia is, the same way that Ghana is, and many other countries around the world. We are known as Unity Canada. That is a new version of our former legal name, which I'll get into in a minute. This is what our website looks like. And it's really easy to find, unitycanada.org. And as you can see across the top, we have quite a few things to offer. I want to highlight the spirit groups because these are about to get going again. Particularly, we'll have a whole bunch of them in the fall. And this is an opportunity to come together with folks for about an hour and a half, 2 hours a week, and be with like minds in a way that we haven't had possible since before COVID, in that we didn't have the Zoom at the level. When I was teaching classes early on in 2002, we didn't have this. I had to fly out west to teach. I had to drive to Scarborough to teach. I had to drive up to Aurelia to teach. So now we have this capacity to really be a Canadian movement, to really be together. I think of all the times between I'd say 1984 when I first joined Unity, and 2019 when I started using Zoom to teach. I would only see my friends and peeps out west once a year for conference, or possibly twice if we all went to convention. And now we're at a point where our ministries can come together, and we can come together as individuals and experience these teachings, experience this journey, and share our experiences together. So let me introduce you to the board of directors. All this information is from the website. We used to be known as the Association of Unity Churches Canada, or AUCC. So if you're ever going through your church's minutes or you're going through an old library, you see a reference to AUCC. That was our former name. I suspect it's still our incorporated name, and that we're doing business as Unity Canada. Let me introduce you to our board of directors. Some of you in the Ontario area might recognize a few of these faces and names. So Reverend Patricia is our president, Reverend David's our vice president, Cheryl up at Unity Kitchener is our treasurer, Reverend Barbara is our chaplain, and then Claude and Janet are our members at large. And they do amazing work. And just notice that they are not all in the same province. They are spread across 3 provinces, in fact. And then you add on additional members who are non-voting. So Reverend Cynthia, who is a regional consultant, she's an expert in doing ministry. Anne Hokangas from over in Hamilton is our regional rep. And so she liaises with headquarters, and she liaises with all of us. And so that is someone to contact when we're having challenges. And then you might recognize the person with the headphones. That would be me. I serve as LUT representative. LUT stands for Licensed Unity Teacher. It's a credentialing level within the Unity movement. I can do weddings, I can do funerals, I can do baptisms, I can do christenings, I can do civil joinings, I can do a whole bunch of things. The only thing that I have to have is a minister who signs off every year that I am still in good standing and that I have done what I am required to do to keep my license current. Mariette Jones is the alternate LUT rep, and she will step into the role in 2024 when I need to step down because I'll have finished my 2 terms. And then we have 2 coordinators. You have me. Yeah, I get around. I'm the adult education coordinator, so I oversee all of the training in Canada, whether it's the SEE or just for interest. I assist with the LUTs that are in training, and I help people prepare for admission to the ministerial program. And then Anna. Anna is our wonderful person who keeps the website and our newsletters happening. And she's really easy to reach. hello@unitycanada.org. Unity Canada has 3 pillars: leading, learning, and contact. And we've got this wonderful wordle, I think. I'm not sure what to call these things. Word cloud was what I would have called it, but that we're aware of the 3 areas. Like a stool, you have to have 3 legs or it doesn't sit, minimum. So in October of last year at our annual conference, the board of directors renewed their commitment to core values in action. Core value number 1 is inclusivity, welcoming and honoring all expressions of the divine. We listen deeply, seeking to understand. We actively support social justice initiatives. We promote initiatives that build bridges of understanding, healing, and oneness. The second is creativity, embracing the beginner's mind. We remain flexible and open to ideas. We experiment with new ideas, take risks, and learn from successes and failures. We consistently engage in visioning, building an expansive awareness of what is. We actively collaborate and lift up the collective wisdom of the whole. And finally, generosity. Swimming in the flow of a universal abundance, we embrace generosity of spirit, treating all with kindness and respect. We enthusiastically share resources of time, information, skills, talents, and money. We engage the law of circulation, giving freely without expectation. And at the bottom, it says you are most welcome to adopt or adapt as you re-examine your own core values. That's something that I, as a credentialed leader, take seriously. My values and core concepts are not the same as when I first received my credentialing almost 25 years ago. I have grown and moved and altered as things have changed around me, as my understanding has grown, and as things have happened in this world. And let's face it, things have happened in this world in the last 5 years. So that's a bit about what Unity Canada is. Not sure what the future looks like. There are a number of things on the table right now that are in discussion. Some I'm excited about, some I'm meh about, some I'm really excited about. Like as of yesterday, all of our SEE classes, spiritual and education and enrichment, will be taught bilingually. We will teach in English and have French translation or French with English translation. And that's something I have wanted to do for a very long time, and it's finally coming to pass. So that will be starting next week. We will begin our very first class that way. So that is what I have, and I'm happy to stay on the call after we're finished the gathering portion and answer questions and things, because I realized this was more like a workshop than a Sunday talk, but stay tuned. Next week, it'll be back to my normal stuff. So let me welcome you to Myrtles Grove. This is a beautiful place on campus here at Unity Village, with benches and lots of shade, grown in memory of our co-founder Myrtle. And I'm just going to invite you to get comfortable in your chair, your couch, your bed, whatever you're currently inhabiting, and imagine yourself sitting on the metal bench. It's kind of slatty, but it's not uncomfortable. And it's in the shade, and you can feel the breeze. And you can hear at least 5 or 6 different birds calling to each other. And just breathing in this space, giving yourself permission to forget the past, forget the future, and just be in this now moment. Knowing that each of us is an expression of the one. This one being what we might call God, Buddha, or any other name, spirit, beingness. The commonality is that it is eternal, it is universal, and it is equally available to each of us. It is our choice whether or not we accept it. It is our choice, like at a buffet, what parts we choose to partake of and what we choose not to say, no thanks. That's not mine to do or be. Giving thanks that we have this opportunity to come together, to be in alignment with each other, to be aware of this aspect of our life, separate and apart from all the world is struggling with. Our opportunity to refill from the well of spiritual understanding, love, prosperity, and wholeness. And as we refill, we become not as the cup that overflows, but as the lighthouse, whose light and love and prosperity and wholeness spread out over the world, providing a reminder that we are not alone, that we have the capacity for more than we can even imagine. That contrary to much of our consumerism, we are encouraged to ask the question, may I? Can I? Is this mine to do? For only in asking these questions can the universe say, yes, thank you for asking. And in this time and space, we give thanks for everyone on this call, for everyone who will watch this at a future time, knowing that truly there is no time or space, that in the oneness we feel the connection, even when it's a recording. We know this oneness, we feel this oneness, we give thanks for this oneness. And so it is, and so it shall be. Amen. I invite for you to take with you affirmation I stumbled across. I am grateful for the gifts within each moment. These past week or so, as I've been at convention, I have been so blessed with divine moments of opportunities to meet up with people that I've only seen online, to have conversations that I didn't realize I needed to have until it was over, and to just find amazing things in our universe. So thank you all for being here today. As always, our lead prayer chaplain, Diane, is waiting for your requests. She's not on the call today, but she will be checking her email and supporting you. As always, thank you in advance for any financial donations you choose to share. We are 100% funded by your donations, and we are so grateful for them. And I invite you to consider that giving is like this, not like this or this. That as one hand receives, the other hand gives. And with that consciousness, let us bless our gifts, whether they be financial, our time, our talents, or other treasure, willingly sharing that of ourselves, knowing that we are a blessing to not only Unity Halton Peel, but to the world. That wherever these treasures go, they are received in love. And so it is. Amen. If you haven't already, please sign up for our newsletter. You can find more information there about all of our activities. And as always, a portion of the financial gifts will be shared with Eden Food for Change. Okay, upcoming events. Starting this Wednesday, Rev Mary Wood is going to do a hybrid session. I think this is so cool. Can you tell I'm geeking out about how we can do this in virtual reality? So Rev Mary will be doing Finding Yourself in Transition at Unity Village Chapel, where I am, as well as online via Zoom for anyone who cares to join her. Finding Yourself in Transition is a book by Reverend Robert Brummett. It's one of my favorites of his. He's written a few, and it's all about how to get through those phases of our lives where something has ended and we're not sure what's next. I ought to have bought a copy because mine's getting a little dog-eared from all the times I've read it, because it's my go-to in times of challenging. And our licensed teacher, Debbie Long, will be supporting Unity York Region, and we're going to be exploring the booklet Love, Healing, and Abundance, coming Thursday at 7 o'clock Eastern. And you can email her for additional information. Next Sunday, I will be back, and I will go back to our usual 12 Power series that I've been doing for 2023. And the power for this month is understanding. And I have a lot of understanding that I have achieved, and I'm so ready to share it with you, but I'll wait for next week. And this is the point at which we thank all of you who have been with us in the future, and blessings, and hope to see you next week. And this is the point where everyone who's still on the call, here's the rest of the announcements. So Reverend Barbara will be back with us in 2 weeks' time. Had a wonderful time with her while we were down together doing the convention thing. Reverend Mary will be back talk about the simple life. Oh, I put in a second slide. Starting next week, Discerning Your Purpose with Cora Alexander, a licensed Unity teacher from the Atlanta area who absolutely loves helping people discern their purpose. And I said, oh, good, you can teach this class then, because I'm not really fond of teaching it. So she will start on Thursdays. Email me at courses@unitycanada.org. And Prosperity will start the 11th of July, and it will be in French with English captioning. And Reverend Rosemary, who is in North Carolina, but has become our adjunct faculty because she was raised in French immersion classes, and so she has a PhD in French language, and she is my go-to for anything and everything French. So looking forward to having these two ladies this summer. Spirit groups will start up again on July 11th, and we're going to do a book study group with Cheryl. Neil Donald Walsh, more details there, and you can find additional details at unitycanada.org under spirit groups. All right, Madam President, have I missed any local announcements?
You're good, Wendy. I guess the one thing I would say is that Mary's article in the Daily Word is a 4-page. I just scanned it. And if anybody would like to read it or have it, send a request to info@unityhaltonpeel.ca, and I will send the scanned article out to you in case you don't have the Daily Word. Okay?
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, now it is time to bless the children. And I'm going to include the inner children because my inner child has been playing a lot this week and she had a really good time. So children and youth of Unity and of the world, we love you, we bless you, and we appreciate you just the way you are.
Amen.
And let us close our time together with the words, the light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is. I am
divine. Amen.
And as always, and I got a big hug from Sue Riley, and she sends her love, and here is her song to close it out.
Peace in my life is growing because I choose love. Love's always present, it's what I'm made of. I choose love. We are a part of each other. We are one tie that binds us, that can't be undone. I choose love. I choose love. Peace in my family is growing because I choose love. Let love be present, it's what we're made of.
choose love.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful week. I will be back in Canada next week, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again so soon. Thank you all.
Thank you, Wendy.